Each candidate that's in our programs has a story, has goals, has the passion and desire to become a teacher. And sometimes we need to just tap into that. So I think it's a matter of, you can't just look at data alone. You also have to look at the stories and the individual. That's one thing. And then really making data a part of the culture. So that's the biggest challenge with implementing a new platform. It's got to be a cultural shift, and people have to be on board with contributing data to a platform and recognizing that their contributions are supportive of an overall focus on continual improvement.
Hi, this is Jamal Watson. I am the author of The Student Debt Crisis, and you are listening to EdUp Accelerated Excellence.
This episode of EdUp Accelerated Excellence is supported by the 2.0 conferences to be held in Las Vegas, Nevada, April 7th through 9th, 2026. Business leaders, educators, healthcare experts, marketing and tech professionals, and founding entrepreneurs are welcome to take part. Reserve your space today and receive a 15% discount courtesy of EdUp Accelerated Excellence with the code EDUPXE15OFF. That's EDUPXE15OFF. Check the show notes for more information or learn more and register online at the2conf.com. That's the2conf.com with the code EDUPXE15OFF.
This episode is supported in part by Patriox Ultra High Oxygen Content Water. Drinking Patriox helps oxygenate the body, promoting overall health, energy, and vitality. In 2026, try Patriox on your journey for accelerated excellence. Receive a 10% discount on your next purchase with the code EDUPXE. That's 10% off with the code EDUPXE at patriox.us. Patriox.us. Find more details in the show notes. Welcome to EdUp Accelerated Excellence, the podcast for the advancement of educational excellence and equity. And I'm your host, Jacob Easley II, PhD, PMP, and today's guest, we're so excited, is Marlene Megos, who is the founder and CEO of Equate Education. And we're going to talk about apprenticeships and residencies in educator preparation. So Marlene, welcome to the show, and will you introduce yourself to the EdUp Accelerated Excellence community by giving voice to your name and giving us a high-level overview of Equate Education?
Well, thank you, Jacob, and I am excited to be here with you today. You're very gracious, and you've made me laugh so far today. I'm very excited to be here. So I am Marlene Megos, and I'm the founder of Equate Education, and this is a relatively new endeavor for me. I'm a 30-year educator turned entrepreneur, and Equate Education really focuses on educator prep institutions and being able to support them with gathering the right data to support those candidates that are on the ground and in their programs, and also have that 30,000-foot view of how their programs are doing, and be able to have the data at their fingertips to be able to support and answer questions.
Marlene, thank you for that. You know, the idea of a high quality educator preparation is at the fore of the conversation on national levels and of course local levels. And we're going to get into this idea of data-driven decision making, because to think about quality, it's data on the front end to inform practice, and data on the back end to measure the quality in terms of the goals and aspirations that an organization may have. But you mentioned that you have been in education for quite a while. So would you mind sharing that journey for us? So what drew you to the profession of education, and then how did that trajectory lead you to this wonderful idea of becoming an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a big question. So, education was in my blood from the very beginning, ever since. And this is so trite, but in thinking about playing school when I was a little kid, and I had some really great role models. It was easy for me, being a white woman. I saw a lot of white women, leading classrooms in my elementary, middle, high school, and mathematics drew me in. I was really, it was kind of easy for me. I understood it. And then I put those two together and went to school to become a mathematics teacher. I started out in the classroom at E.O. Smith High School in Storrs, Connecticut, and was quickly engaged in opportunities to develop portfolios, work with state leaders, and that really put me on a trajectory for working with broader groups of teachers across school districts and within school districts. I went into central office roles. I worked at the State Department of Education in Connecticut as a mathematics consultant, leading their best portfolio process, and ultimately ended up as assistant superintendent for craft magnet schools. There, we were working on professional learning for all our in-service teachers, but really identified a need to diversify our workforce. We had about 75% of our students that were identifying from marginalized populations, and our teachers were not. We had maybe about 12% of our teachers. And so we looked at our paraprofessional pool, and there were a lot of paraprofessionals that were doing the job of teacher, really passionate about working with students. And so that led me to working with a team to develop a teacher residency program. We got state approval. We enacted the program for the school district at CREC. And then we, together with my assistant, Yashonda Mitchell, we decided that we were going to expand this across the state because it wasn't only our school system, right? This is a national problem. Not only did we have a teacher shortage, but we also did not have a diverse population. And we're seeing those same kind of things today, right? 20% of our nation's teachers identify as BIPOC or from marginalized communities. So it's not reflective of our student population, and we need to open up the field to be able to support everybody. So long story short, we implemented the teacher residency program. We grew it across the state, across multiple disciplines, elementary, mathematics, special ed. We had 4 locations. We had 90% of our students were identified from those marginalized communities and really serving the communities that they were, that was representative of their student population. And it was a great program to be. It was free for our students. We were able to get lots of funding to be able to support them in a full year residency with a mentor teacher. But in that, you need a lot of data. You need a lot of data to be able to answer those legislators that call you up, to be able to go for CAPE accreditation, to be able to write those grant reports, and answer to our own administration to show how we're doing, and not to mention Title II reporting. And so that's where the idea came for me for Equate Education. I was working on data a lot. It took up a lot of my time, and we didn't have the systems that would really align with a residency model. And so I wanted to come up with a system that was going to work better for today's modern style teacher preparation, because teacher preparation is shifting. It is really, we need to be more it needs to be more accessible. It needs to be more realistic in how we pay people to work while they're learning. And that's really what Equate Education is all about, is supporting those new, unique, and also some of the traditional models, right? We are not we are agnostic in terms of what the Educator prep program is. We work with all kinds, but we really want to support high quality preparation, like you mentioned.
So with the background in mathematics, I'm assuming that has something to do with the title Equate, or the word equate within your title. And I'm just curious. So how did you come by that name of Equate Education?
Well, maybe it's subconscious in terms of equate, right? But I think it's about leveling the playing field and really making education accessible for everybody. That was really where my passion was. I've had plenty of opportunities, and I want everyone to have those same opportunities. We need it. Our children need it. We need to be able to have a profession that is representative of our student population. People need to see in their teachers themselves to be able to continually provide a pipeline of educators and to build that passion for education in our students. So I think it's really just about leveling the playing field and making sure everybody who wants to be an educator has access to those programs.
I can definitely appreciate that. So in Connecticut, and you talked about your programming now has expanded across disciplines, across districts, but you use the word diversify. And there is a teacher shortage, particularly in certain areas, and there's also a content or a special area shortage in special education, for example. And in your particular field, mathematics, STEM, which would be science and engineering. When you think about diversifying the teacher workforce, and part of that conversation, yes, does have to do with what we would call traditionally racially marginalized communities having less representation in terms of volume. When you think about diversification, how are you exploring that within the state of Connecticut?
So I do want to say that I am no longer with the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program. So I am full on working for Equate Education. That is my passion. That is my baby right now. And in the state of Connecticut, I do keep in touch with, what's going on here. And a couple things that we're seeing is an increase in both apprenticeship programs and residency programs. Now, those they are taking off and slowly advancing, but we see more and more universities that are offering those programs, as well as some nonprofit organizations like the original one that we started, which is the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program. And, it has been incremental. We also have lots of we have some programs that are focusing on high school students, so getting high school students into the profession earlier. And we are not only doing that, but also trying to attract more people into the field. But what our school districts have been finding is when they do more recruitment of diverse candidates, it's really just pulling from other districts. So we really need to focus on the pipeline and getting candidates into programs so that they can become certified and be part of the classroom and school environment.
So for those who may not be familiar, you use two important terms, residency and apprenticeships. So could you briefly describe what those are and how are they the same or different?
Great question. And residency and apprenticeships are happening all over, and they're happening in different forms. So when I speak about residency and apprenticeships, I'm really talking about educator prep programs that combine a long and intensive on-the-job training in conjunction with coursework. And those are the key aspects. Usually, in my mind, the coursework should be well aligned with the on-the-job practice. And the on-the-job practice should be working with a qualified mentor teacher. The mentor teacher is instrumental in, I used to call it a year-long think aloud in our residency model, because the mentor teacher and the resident used to work side by side from day one, even meet before school starts, and then go through what the entire year looks like so that the teacher on the other side can be classroom ready to take over their own class. I don't know about you, but I remember crying a lot my first year of teaching. I had 2 classes, and I also worked adult ed in the evening, and it was a lot of work, and there was a lot that you were left to figure out on your own. So in a residency and apprenticeship model, there should be a more intensive, guided release of responsibility to that mentor or apprentice teacher. The other key factor in both of those is there should be paid opportunities. Apprenticeships, though, that is a requirement, right? To be in an apprenticeship model, you need to be paid for that on-the-job service, and there needs to be wage increases that happen across time. So it is regulated by Workforce Development, Department of Labor, and there are particular rules that come with that. Residencies are less specific, but I think a high-quality residency would also have a stipend or payment for that time, because while they are learning, they are also serving in that classroom. And the other piece that I think is important with both models is that they serve with that mentor teacher at least 50% of the time, and not less. And again, we've got all kinds of models that are out there, but I think the importance is on-the-job experience plus coursework and some payment for their service while they're working in schools.
Yeah, I like that. So this idea of residencies and apprenticeships really, in some ways, as I think through this and hearing you talk about it, harken back to some of the early work of the Holmes Partnership and Holmes Group back in the 80s, which championed this idea of professional development schools and what they would call lengthy or year-long residencies, which now we're calling apprenticeships through the Department of Labor, with certain rules and guidelines under the auspices of that federal agency.
One thing that you bring up, and with those guidelines and rules, it shifts how we do things a little bit in educator prep. So the other thing that stands out about apprenticeships is let me take a step back. When you talk about traditional ed prep and even residency programs, oftentimes the university is the key decision maker about the teacher's qualifications and the teacher's ability to move on to get certification. When we talk about apprenticeship, the employer, which is the school district, has a prominent voice in assessing those candidates' competencies and skills, and really has to work really closely with the university or related instruction provider. And that's where our platform, Equate Education, will benefit organizations that use it, because we treat all stakeholders and allow multiple stakeholders to give insights and have insights into candidate progress. So whether you're a university or a school district or a nonprofit organization, you all have access and contribute to the candidate success and support.
Thank you for listening to EdUp Accelerated Excellence. This episode is supported by the 2.0 conferences to be held in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA, April 7th through 9th, 2026. Business leaders, educators, healthcare experts, marketing and tech professionals, and founding entrepreneurs are welcome to take part. Reserve your space today and receive a 15% discount courtesy of EdUp Accelerated Excellence with the code EDUPXE15OFF. That's EdUPXE15OFF. Check out the details in the show notes or learn more and register online at the2conf.com. That's the2conf.com with the code EDUPXE15OFF.
This episode is supported in part by Patriox Ultra High Oxygen Content Water. Drinking Patriox helps oxygenate the body, promoting overall health, energy, and vitality. In 2026, try Patriox on your journey for accelerated excellence. Receive a 10% discount on your next purchase with the code EDUPXE. That's 10% off with the code EDUPXE at patriox.us. Patriox.us. Find more details in the show notes. We're speaking with Marlene Megos, who is founder and CEO of Equate Education. And Marlene, you're leading us into now the core work of Equate Education. So could you give us just an overview of if you were to approach a district or an apprentice program about your services, why would it be valuable to me?
So it's really valuable because there is a lot of work that people do, shuffling papers, emails, Excel spreadsheets, pivot tables, phone calls, Google Drives, Google Documents, to be able to figure out where the candidate is in their program and how they're meeting their milestones. There are so many requirements when it comes to becoming a teacher. There are competencies, there are on-the-job hours, there are assessments in most states that need to be mastered. There is, transcripts and reference letters and you name it, right? So I used to have, and I still do have, what I call a cred file. And really, that cred file was everything related to my career. I put that in that file, my state certification letters, all that information, so that if I went for a job interview, I had all of that. Or if I went for certification, I had all my documentation. And that's really what Equate does. It collects all that information in one place and allows program leaders to have those insights into how candidates are doing according to their own milestones. So the universities or the school districts that are running these programs can keep track of where everybody is and how they are doing in their program. And the key piece is knowing when students need that extra bit of support. It's really also, it's human-centered, right? We care about the individual's goals. We want to support them in getting there. And we also care about them completing their program and moving on to their first job in education. So that's what we can do. We can provide you those insights into the individual candidates, but also we're developing the ability to aggregate up so you can see how programs are doing overall as a university, how school district work sites are doing, and have the data at your fingertips that you need.
So this is brilliant. Essentially, you're developing a sort of, you just call it a cred folder, but this is a portfolio, a data portfolio for universities, in this case, I'm assuming, who work alongside districts, school districts. How do you support the leaders in understanding their data that they are archiving and sorting and organizing through your platform?
Yeah. So we're early stage. So we've got a few pilots going, and really it's about figuring out what data should come into the platform. So really working with the leaders to pinpoint their own workflows and see what data they need or want. For example, I talked with some university people at a conference we were just at in New York, and they were talking about dispositions and how they now want to really keep track of and measure dispositional behaviors from early on throughout a program. So education candidates, what are their dispositions like when they come into the program, and then how do they change over time? So working with leaders to say, you can put those dispositional rubrics into the platform, and your clinical supervisor, the mentor or cooperating teacher who's working with the candidate, program leaders can go in and do a dispositional assessment on a candidate at any time, and that data can be stored right in the platform. And so you can look over time how those dispositions have changed and where the students are.
And so what are you finding, though, when you work with folks in the early stages are sort of the pain points? So I like this idea of you work with them to decide on what data you want to have. But are you finding once they have data, what are the pain points or challenges that you see that institutions, and in this case, I want to open it up, open this up to not only think about universities, but even the partners or district partners. So with the data that's now in hand, are you finding any pain points around how do we understand the data? Did we collect the right data? And so on and so forth.
Yeah. So I think the interesting thing, and this is where we're really trying to be human-centered, is a lot of people go with their gut, right? And so it's a matter of using the data in conjunction with those stories, right? Those anecdotes, and being able to support candidates and move candidates along in a manner that honors both. Each candidate that's in our programs has a story, has goals, has the passion and desire to become a teacher. And sometimes we need to just tap into that. So I think it's a matter of, you can't just look at data alone. You also have to look at the stories and the individual. That's one thing. And then really making data a part of the culture so that, and that's the biggest challenge with implementing a new platform. It's got to be a cultural shift, and people have to be on board with contributing data to a platform and recognizing that their contributions are supportive of an overall focus on continual improvement, not only for their candidates, the individuals they're working with, but also for the entire education department. So having that data mindset is important to build across teams, and getting everybody on board and recognizing the importance of using the platform and ensuring that the data needs to be in one place, and making those tweaks in the platform, because everybody likes to take their own personal notes, me included. I've got a notebook here, but we also need to keep documenting so that those that information can be used to be able to support the candidates as they go through their program. Jacob, it's interesting because there's the praxis and all the tests that people have to take, right? And when we're at the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program, we have candidates that took the test 2 or 3 times and were still struggling. And so our data wasn't that great because we had people that weren't passing necessarily, but they were rock stars in the classroom. Absolute rock stars. So one of the things that we're thinking about is, how do we keep track of candidates and continue building their files after they leave the programs, and so that we can see what is retention like? How are they doing in the profession? Because it's one thing, and we know the data shows from enrollment to completion, there's a huge drop off in numbers of candidates that are completing programs. And then when they get into the classroom, what happens in the first 5 years? So that data is critically important to figure out, how are they doing? But I think it's a big picture story that we need to look at.
Right. I like the idea of the big picture and the nuance in some ways. So understanding the nuances, but also the big picture. So you describe Equate as a smart system designed to build a better future for educator preparation. Can you unpack that for us?
Yeah, the vision is really for people to have the data at their fingertips and to be able to use that data to make good decisions. And whether it's from a candidate perspective and seeing, where they're thriving, what competencies they're doing well at, and what competencies they need to do work on, we can really tailor our programs and our outreach to those particular candidates to be able to support them in a continual cycle of growth and improvement around those competencies, and everywhere from program improvement. So thinking about, are there particular types of candidates that are benefiting from our program? How do we then make sure everybody's benefiting from our program? What is our retention like? All of those, we want to be able to help people answer those questions as they come up. And I think the other thing is we've got a lot of systems that we work with. I know myself, and I'm copying things from one system and putting it into another in running my business, and that's the same thing that I hear from educator prep programs, right? They've got a student information system. They've got an assessment department that's working on assessments. They've got another system that's used for something else. And really, we want to be able to have sort of one-stop shopping where everything's right there at your fingertips. So you have it when you need it. And then the individuals themselves can also keep track of their own progress. And the school district, so we have a university site maybe and a school district site, they can also see how their candidates are progressing. If I'm a building administrator and I have 10 candidates in my school, I kind of want to see how everybody's doing and where I can step in and be an educational leader and support them. So that's how it becomes smart.
And at this point, what successes or sparks of excellence have you been able to discern?
Yeah, so it's early stages, but we are hearing that it's really important just to have a view into every candidate's profile in the platform, that it's nice to have a repository where they can put information. People love the clean nature of it. It's pretty intuitive. And also one of the features that's really gaining sort of momentum is the idea of the triad. So you might have a clinical supervisor or coach, a mentor, and the candidate. And we have a feature where they can all communicate together in the platform. And that's something that allows sort of that. And that's where our logo comes from. So there's, everybody in support working together and surrounding that candidate with the love they need.
We're speaking with Marlene Megos, who is founder and CEO of Equate Education. Marlene, you talked about this triad model where the student teacher or candidate, the university supervisor, and the school or district mentor, who's the classroom teacher or someone in the district who might work with a candidate. Let's talk a bit about partnerships. So how are these partnerships shaping the future of education? And if you could, let's just hone in on that triad.
Yeah, I think the partnerships are incredibly important, and we know they have been. It is something that's measured. Universities are measured on in terms of how well they work with school districts, and the landscape is shifting. So the universities used to be the premier decider and sharer of information with the candidate. And so they would put candidates in a school building and then observe them. That's how it happened for me, right? And the mentor teacher was there, and mine was great. She was fantastic. And she did a couple observations too, and they talked a little bit. It was really nice. But now, when we're talking about apprenticeships or residencies, where candidates are in buildings much longer and in there, in hopefully an opportunity to then become a member of that community, especially if we're talking about grow your own programs, whereby they're getting trained, and then the hope is that they then take a position within that community. There's a lot more shared responsibility there. So the idea of the clinical supervisor and the mentor really working together in partnership to be able to support that person and be able to share insights, to be able to talk through, okay, what do we work on next? To be able to, for the clinical supervisor to come back and say, the candidates that I'm seeing are really struggling with asking questions. We might want to do a seminar around that particular topic. And so that's where the partnership between whatever institution is providing the coursework and the on-the-job employer is, or clinical academic placement is integral to the partnerships.
And when you look at the journey so far that Equate Education has undergone, what are you most proud of accomplishing at this point?
I think personally, I am most proud of the feedback that we're getting around how easy and clean it is. And that comes from a real desire to make data systems useful and easy. I was a mathematics person. I love spreadsheets. I can dig into them all day, play around with them. That's why I'm doing this, right? But I recognize the value that people in positions like yours and clinical supervisors, the value that they have is really in leading educator prep programs and helping candidates be successful. And the majority of their time should be spent there. So I'm proud of the fact that we're building a system that's going to make their lives easier, because what the real work is really hard. And I want them to have that time to do that. And I'm also kind of, just on a side personal note, I was a computer science minor way back in the day. I'm pretty happy that a lot of that stuck with me, and I was able to build the system, the first pass at the system. Now we're rebuilding now with actual engineers and product developers. But the system that we have right now, I was able to put together and build it in a way that makes sense. And I think that was a great foundation for what we're doing, but now we're turning it over to the professionals to make it even better.
I'm going to ask you to dream out loud with me for a moment. And if you were to look ahead, what innovations or changes would you hope to see in education over the next 5 to 10 years, really through the integration of Equate Education? So how do you think the profession will change with this system being an integral part of that process?
So that's a great question. And what I'm hoping for is a shift in how we do school. and really thinking about embracing models that are more collaborative in terms of the teaching and other professionals that are working together. So this is work that Arizona State University is doing, and really embracing apprentices and residents and teachers in training alongside experienced teachers and lead teachers, as well as paras, tutors, and even an AI tutor, to be able to work in conjunction and move away from the one teacher, 25 students, or one teacher, 100 students model, to make it a more collaborative and team effort. This has been shown to really change the functionality of how we work with students, but also provides more relief and less stress for those educators that are involved. The other thing that's critical in that, and this is where Equate Education comes in, is being able to work with professionals in any stage of their career trajectory. And specifically in the near future, we're looking to be able to support mentors and any lead teachers in our platform, because as these individuals, mentors, are working with others, they need a little bit more training to be able to not only serve their children, but be able to serve other adults that are learning from them. So for Equate Education, we think about this model of collaboration with experienced teachers and apprentice teachers or novice teachers in lifting up both educators and being able to support the training needs of everybody.
I'm interested in knowing from the user side, and you've talked a lot about what sort of the leaders of programs can do and how they can use the data. But I heard you in this dreaming out loud talk about, and going back to your CRED portfolio. So how do candidates or the intern use the platform, or how might they use the platform, so at the individual level?
Yeah. So first and foremost, it is their CRED file, right? It is their ability to put their documents into one digital repository to be able to keep track of everything. I recently lost a certification document that I had, and luckily I have a digital picture of it. I can always get another one from the state, but when you need it, you need it. So having everything in one place. The other thing is thinking about, what is their goal? Having that goal set in the platform so that they always, when they log in, they see that goal. They know that they want to become an elementary school teacher. So that is there, and that is their North Star for whenever they log in and whatever they're contributing to it. And then the other piece is seeing where they are along those program milestones and being able to see the accomplishments that they've made and know what's next and what they still need to do. I mean, if we think about it, it's really, it's helpful for every student to know, what is your goal? Where are you trying to go? How do you get there? And then where am I along the path? So that's really what we're hoping to do, and for individual candidates. And then if we think about the pipeline and the variety of careers in education, as we look towards paras coming in, once they complete a goal, now what's next? Can I get to the teacher level? And thinking about, okay, what's the next program? So building on from wherever they come in.
And so, Marlene, what is next for you or for Equate Education that the EdUp Accelerated Excellence community can look forward to, and how might we engage with that work?
Yeah, so I'm super excited for 2026, and we are still letting some customers come in who have all the pieces that they want to capture into our platform. We are also rebuilding. So like I said, we're rebuilding the platform so that it can accommodate a lot of programs and a lot of students, and thinking about more of a longitudinal map for individuals. And that's exciting. So we are going to launch for real. I feel like I've been in soft launch mode for about a year. We've been in pilot mode. So we are moving to our real launch, and we're putting ourselves out there fully to the education community and ready to take on those that want to go on this journey with us and try something different and help us help them do their job more effectively.
And how might individuals engage with you? Where can they contact you?
Well, they can contact me via email at marlene@equate-ed.net, or they can come to our website. They can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there, and so is our company. So there's lots of different opportunities, and I believe all those links you have and are associated with this podcast. So I'm very excited to talk to people and to see how we can support them.
We will definitely add those in the show notes. And Marlene, I want to thank you for this opportunity to learn with and from you here at EdUp Accelerated Excellence as we advance educational excellence and equity.
Thank you, Jacob. This has been a wonderful experience. I really appreciate you and your questions.
Thank you for engaging with EdUp Accelerated Excellence, a member of the EdUp Experience network of educational podcasts. You can find this and other episodes on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Radio, YouTube, and other outlets where you listen to your favorite podcasts. If you like this episode, don't forget to follow us and share within your network. To leave a comment or suggest a guest, contact us online at edupxe.com.
A special thanks to our research assistant, Emma Worthington, a PhD student of Fordham University's School Psychology program. And we want to hear from you if you have feedback on this or other episodes, or would like to nominate a guest. Contact us online at edupxe.com. That's edupxe.com.